As you just heard, my name is Cyd Maurer, and I am a former local news anchor from Eugene, Oregon. And it's still really new for me to be talking about this and standing on a stage talking about cannabis, something that I, of course, like many of you, have worked on hiding for many years before this. So what happened to me was I was forced to take a drug test and was fired due to inactive THC metabolites in my system. Most of you out there probably understand that when you consume cannabis, it interacts with your body differently than almost anything else, and traces of it, even when inactive, stay in your system for up to 30 days. So even though I was completely 100% sober at work, I was penalized and fired for personal cannabis use in my own time. What's more is my news director and assistant news director, my immediate bosses, fought for me to keep my job. So in case anyone out there was wondering if it was something else going on, it wasn't. I was told verbatim that it was my drug test that came back positive for THC metabolites that led to my firing. And instead of just being quiet about it and kind of pretending like that didn't happen, trying to maybe go back into the news or back into the corporate world, I was so frustrated that I had to speak out against it. It was completely legal for an out-of-state attorney, corporate attorney, to fire me, but it wasn't right. Legal, but not right, and that is why I'm speaking out against it. So a little more backstory on my situation. Like many news stations out there, my station was very, very comfortable with drug testing people. I am not exaggerating with saying that I had a coworker who tripped and was drug tested. I had a coworker who bumped her head and was drug tested. And for my situation, I was in rush hour traffic and I tapped the bumper of the car in front of me and was forced to take a drug test. So even though I left 2 scratches on a bumper in front of me, was completely sober, and that wouldn't have led to me getting fired. Because I used cannabis in my personal time, I was fired. And like I said, this is completely legal. And I truly believe that the only way that we're gonna see any change, any movement in these unfair policies is if we continue to educate and expose people to the truth about cannabis. If this policy was in place to keep people safer, it's failing. There's no reason to believe that someone who uses cannabis in their free time is at all unsafe or less safe than someone who, say, consumes alcohol in their free time. So let's take a minute to think about my situation. Had I used alcohol, or had I used even a harder substance like meth or cocaine days before my accident, I would still have my job. But because it was cannabis, and like I said, it stays in your system for longer, I lost my job. We need to explain to businesses that this is bad business practice. It's not keeping anyone safer, and it's actually sending a really negative message to employees, right? Top employers like Microsoft, for instance, they don't drug test because they respect their current or prospective employees. There are so many reasons that drug testing is wrong. Exactly. Policemen aren't drug tested. And in fact, the FBI, for instance, has stopped drug testing certain departments because they weren't getting the application turnout that they needed. It is known that using cannabis in your free time does not increase your risk as a worker. Therefore, this policy should not be in place. It'd be different, right, if it was a reactionary thing. If there was a time in history where we can point that cannabis was legal and a bunch of people were just coming to work stoned and causing, just terrible, dangerous accidents all the time. Guess what? That's never happened. That is not the news story. That I was in the news business for years, and never once was there some crazy incident about someone coming to work and causing accidents because they were stoned on cannabis. This policy was put in place because Ronald Reagan decided that he wanted to make a federal drug-free workplace policy, basically, and because of that, it spread, and we are where we are today. So, like I mentioned, I am speaking out to educate people and expose people. I truly believe some people really just don't understand cannabis, and that's why they're against it. So if there's anything that I could explain to you is talk about it. Come out of the cannabis closet. If you don't talk about your cannabis use, how is anyone supposed to understand that it doesn't make you a bad person? It doesn't make you more dangerous, more lazy, or any worse than someone who chooses to use alcohol or any other substance in their free time. So please keep talking about it. If you're looking to find out more about me, it's Cyd Maurer. You can look at me on Twitter and Facebook, and I'm blogging for Marijuana Politics, which is a great website if you're looking to follow anything and everything on cannabis news. So thanks again for listening to me.